And good morning, everybody, and welcome into another edition of the Pass and Av Sports Show. I'm your host, James Scorza, with you, and with me, as always, is a group of companions on this very important Saturday. Joey Marks, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Philadelphia. Good morning, James. It's a bright day, and we have a lot to get to, and it is going to be amazing. First, I want to welcome in the band. The boys are back in town. The band is back together. Frank Finnegan. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Damon Saleem. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, gang. Happy Saturday.
Yeah, happy
Yeah,
Saturday.
happy Saturday. We got a lot to get into, and we're going to start out with probably the most talked about topic in Philadelphia this week. This past week, Mr. Spencer Strider decided that he wanted to pitch in on Bryce Harper, so much so that he plunked him. I'm going to throw it to Frank first because I know all of us have a lot to talk about when it comes down to Bryce Harper getting hit. Now, before I throw it to you, Frank, I want to preface this. Bryce Harper has been thrown at in his career 93 times and hit 93 times. Okay, so Frank, with the Spencer Strider plunking Bryce Harper, what's your takeaway on that?
Okay. I celebrated my 64th birthday earlier in the week.
Happy
Congratulations.
birthday, man.
Happy belated, buddy.
Happy
And
birthday. Happy
if
birthday.
thank you very much. And I really, really, really want to make it to 65. But the Phillies are making it a little difficult. And one guy in particular, Topper, because that's where this is coming from. I don't know. I don't know what happened to the Philly mentality about playing sports in this town, but the Phillies are definitely going away from what a Philly mentality is. Okay, this isn't San Diego where it's all unicorns and puppy dogs and pretty clouds. No, this is Philly. All right, and we have chips on our shoulder because we're stuck between dealing with New York people and Boston people and Baltimore people and Washington people, and you got to have an attitude. Well, yes, Bryce has been thrown at quite a lot in his career, okay? But particularly 3 times in the last week, all right? And it's like twice in Oakland and once in Philly. And the one time in Philly has put him out for 4 games. Not only that, but they hit 3 other players in the series, and not one time. I don't know what they have to do, but not one time was there a retaliation. Not a brushback pitch. Not a hey, maybe you shouldn't throw at our guys. It's turned our team into a pack of softies, and particularly the pitchers. I can't believe there isn't somebody in that bullpen that doesn't have a Mitch Williams attitude. Okay, because Mitch would be popping somebody right upside the ear. There's no way that that Albie should have walked out or
Acuna.
I'm sorry, but I would have thrown the ball.
Too, probably too.
I would have
One of them.
more Acuna because Acuna is their best player.
Sure.
All right, and I would have thrown a ball right at his surgically repaired knee, just like Strider hit Harper's surgically repaired elbow. And if Acuna had to sit down for a couple games because his knee was swollen, okay, it's fair. But they didn't return anything, all right? And I'm sick of it. It really makes me mad, all right? And I got to be honest, the Phillies are playing better than I thought they would. I mean, I told you guys at the beginning of the season they were going to struggle to break 90. I still think they're going to struggle to break 90 because they got a crappy bullpen, and unless they fix it, they're going to fade really badly in August. They're really going to fade badly in August. And it's going to disappoint everybody. But, I said this because they ran it back. This is what was going to happen. But this in particular, this non-retaliation for being thrown at is just telling everybody in the league, you know what? We can brush them off the plate. Nobody's going to do anything. Nobody's going to do anything. We all know they swing at outside pitches, and they've gotten better with their discipline. But you're just giving the pitchers another 2 inches to work with if you don't return this. And I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of it. I don't know what Robbie, well, actually he's from Canada. That's probably the problem. because they never had to fight for much up there, But Damon, we grew up in the city. We know what it's like. But Joe, you know what it's like. You got to fight for everything you get, and these guys are not fighting for it, and it's really pissing me off. It's not. It's pissing me off.
So I can't believe I'm the one that's saying this, especially to Frank Finnegan. But Frank, I'm going to say something that's going to sound vaguely familiar, but not coming from me. That's not how the game's played anymore, Frank. And I hate to say that. I really do. I hate to say that because I agree with you that it should be the way it's played. There is an unwritten rule when your star player, and I don't give a damn whether Spencer Strider says after the fact, "Oh, I didn't mean to hit him like that. Oh, I thought he had a guard on." Look, dude, I don't care.
Well, he definitely meant to throw inside. I don't think he meant to hurt him, but he was definitely brushing him back.
Damon, what do you think about all this? I mean, we this has been a topic of contention not just for this week, but because Bryce has been hurt by being thrown in on through the course of his career. And this is just the latest situation, but it happened against the Braves and against Spencer Strider. So what's your takeaway with this?
So just to piggyback off of what you said, so I'm listening on the sports talk the other day, and Ben was in the NBC post and pregame.
Ben Davis.
Ben Davis uttered the same thing Joe you said. He said they don't do it anymore, and they asked him about a couple of brawls that he had been through, whatever. But
I heard that.
So here's the thing. It's like and I got where Frank's coming from. I think that I let me go back. Strider, I don't think was intentionally trying to hit him. I think he did want to pitch him inside. That's obvious. He pretty much acknowledged that. So let's just take off. Let me just take off the fandom for a second. I'm just watching it, right? So we know Bryce covers the plate. That's what he does.
Yeah.
And so you're going to take a chance of getting hit. Now I think about Utley. They brought up the other day. Utley was banged like 60 times in the season, Joe. Like and I'm like, damn, I knew it was a lot. I didn't realize it was 60. That's a high percentage in 162 games to get dinged.
Yeah, he led the league every year in getting hit.
And so then you think about Turner and Realmuto, who they're away from the plate. It's just an interesting dynamic, right? So they're often off the plate. I mean, that's the part of their batting stance. But
they have long swings. They got really long swings.
And so Bryce is over the plate. So there's a chance he's going to be hit. Now, he gets hit. I'm like, where's Bryce? I'm like, oh, damn, he got hit. Like, there's like, what's going to happen? Does it happen in the doubleheader? Because it was a rain. Do you do the old, I'm not going to get you this game, but I'll get you within the next two? So, but then one of their players did hurt his hand, but he was able to stay in the game. So what do I feel? I mean, I don't know, man. I'm like, I guess I'm okay with them not retaliating. I'm just because what is
Damon.
it? So because
Damon.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Because what does it do? So they got eyes. We hit, and now if it's intentional, now it's a different conversation. But he didn't mean to hit him, and Bryce hovers the plate. That's what he does. Now, was it right? I'm not. No. What I'm saying is, I don't know if it's worth to go because let me go back to you, Frank. And you said that they go hit what's the name's me, right? That's an obvious. So now what happens? You get suspended. You get fined. Like I don't know, man.
No. You get away with one until the umpires warn you.
But if he intentionally dings him on his knee, like you're saying, that's a conversation.
You get away with one until the umpire warned you.
I'm like this. I'm okay that it didn't happen. If it did, like, all right, you wash your hands, you move on. But I'm not upset about it that they didn't retaliate.
I was a catcher when I was a kid. I was a catcher. Okay, and when that would happen in a game, all right. And now, I mean, like a guy like Bob Gibson would ding you if the guy in front of you hit a home run. That was different. But when somebody would hit somebody in a game, the whole purpose of that wasn't to hurt the guy. It was to push people off the plate. Okay, and because that pitcher wanted the outside corner. All right, he wanted a place to throw where the pitch was unhittable, or even foul it off. He wanted the outside corner. All right, so if you don't retaliate and you just let them camp up on the plate and don't brush them back, they're limiting your pitcher's ability to get a guy out. And then you're just telling them, yeah, it's okay to brush us off the plate. You have to take possession of that territory back. And the Phillies do not do that.
Okay.
And it's frustrating. And I think a bigger reason for this, a bigger reason for why I don't think they do beanball anymore is because these guys don't get paid $175,000 a year like when I was a kid. No. They get $175,000 a game.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. And there's way too much money on the table, so it's made them soft. You know, they're still good players, but they're thinking like businessmen out there. They're not thinking like players. And it's the same thing with some of the football players, especially defensive players who have to cover the middle. And I mean, they start making, as you likes to say, they start making business decisions out there instead of football decisions. And I think that's the biggest problem with it, is that there's too much money at stake for somebody to start playing beanball and put somebody out of the lineup. Now, Harper's been put out of the lineup for 4 games, and I'm sorry, but that required a retaliation, especially in the game that they got blown out in. Somebody should have got hit in that game.
Nah, that's a different take, what you just broke down. That's interesting to look at. But I agree with you with the money. I thought about that too. Money definitely plays. Some of these guys may have the same agent. All that ties into play, man.
Yeah,
like you said, it's just like so that's more of the other side of it, that they probably don't do it anymore.
Right.
One of the things that I had thought about, and I'll pass this through all you guys, but one of the things I thought about, and I know, Frank, you might ultimately disagree with this, but just hear me out, is that I feel like the reason why they didn't throw at one of the Braves this series is because hitting someone like Acuna in May doesn't do anything in the grand scheme of things. But if you're facing them in a NLDS and you see Acuna just sitting there swaggering to the plate, yeah, you pop him. Because if that guy now is out for the next 3 games, you have an advantage. And
I'm going to disagree with that, Joe. I'm going to tell you why. How many more times are they going to play the Braves this year?
Oh,
they got to play the Braves 9 more times, right?
Yeah.
9 more times they got to play them. Well, guess what? If you do this in game 6, right, he ain't swaggering at any plate the rest of the year because he knows he's going to get popped if he does it. So you set the tone now, and you go, look, this is the way it's going to be, boys. You want to play this game, this is the way it's going to be. And everybody does what they're supposed to do at that point, all right? If you wait till the end of the season, then you could get a guy thrown out of a game. You could get a pitcher thrown out of a game. And the last place you want a pitcher thrown out of the game, especially a starting pitcher with this squad, is in a playoff situation because they ain't got a bullpen that can handle that, all right?
I don't know. Hold up. I'm kind of feeling what Joe's saying. What if they saying we didn't see it on camera? I'm just hypothetical. Lay off of it. We'll deal with it later. Because now in the world in which we live in today with social media, all that, everything is instant, right? So everyone's looking, eyes wide open after Bryce gets hit. When is it happening? Right. When is it coming? The rest of the game, it doesn't happen.
Right.
So going out of what Joey just broke down, maybe they say, and maybe it's not playoffs, Joey. Maybe it's within one of those 9 games.
Yep.
Maybe you're not doing it.
Maybe it's a game where you can get them out of the playoff contention. It could be anything. Where they say,
well, I mean,
you know what happened back in May? Let's take care of that.
I mean, yeah, but see, I think
we don't know.
No, we don't know. But I'll tell you, I only played on a high school level, but I knew this once you sent the message, the message stayed. Those guys in the dugout know, They're going to know, look, if we do something stupid, they're going to retaliate. Somebody could get hurt, like Bryce got hurt, okay? And, they're thinking the same thing. So you got to send that message and go, look, we're going to play baseball or we're going to play beanball. You guys choose,
Although,
But-
here's the other thing, Frank. For those 9 games or even the playoffs, because it hasn't happened yet, I mean, let's be real. All those Braves players know that it's coming at some point. So you're living rent-free. You're already living rent-free in the Braves' head as it is because we've had the Braves number for the past 3 years. Now you
Right.
live rent-free even more so in the Braves players' heads because they know at any given point it's going to be them.
What Joey's saying is they got an
but-
extra chip. They got an extra chip right now because
Yep.
they don't
But-
know when it's coming, but it's coming.
But Damon, you heard the same thing with Ben Davis this week on the radio
Oh,
that
yeah,
I
yeah,
did.
yeah, I did. Yeah,
And
yeah.
he was very, very clear. The Phillies don't play this way.
No, they don't, and they don't. They
And-
don't,
and
and
they don't retaliate. And I mean, tell you, that's a direct reflection of Topper. Okay,
well, or could it be above?
no, that's Topper. Above doesn't mess with what's on the field.
Okay.
That's Topper's call. I'm going to tell you something. If Charlie Manuel was in the dugout, somebody would have had
done.
somebody
Oh,
would
yeah,
have had a ball in
yeah,
their ear.
Yeah.
Somebody would have had a
No,
ball in their ear.
It would have been done. No, he didn't play that.
Yes, absolutely. No, it's
Yeah, yeah.
Topper. It's Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah,
I like Topper, but in this, I'm sorry, buddy. You got to grow a set. You know, you just do. And he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that switch in him. He can't turn that switch on. And
James,
that really bothers me.
James, what's your your thought on that? Should they retaliate it? Because I see you listening, like engaged in that. Like, do you think they should have won with mano?
Well, I mean, you guys make very good points. I think you guys make some outstanding points on this matter because I remember back in the day, there was a time when, like, if there was a pitcher that, like, hit one of our batters, like, the next inning, they retaliate just like that. Like, I think that's the most important thing because you think about it. I mean, I would have thought, like, after, like, when Strider hit at Harper, I would have thought the next inning, like, who was pitching that night? Was it
It was Sale.
it was a no,
Not
Suarez.
Suarez.
So it was Suarez.
Yeah, Rangers.
I think it would be if it was either like Suarez or maybe I wouldn't think Wheeler though. I would probably think like if Nola was still on the team,
Nola
maybe,
wouldn't do it. Nola wouldn't do it.
I don't know either.
I don't think Nola would have done it because I thought about him maybe on the next.
Nah, he's Mr. He's Mr. Calm. He's Mr. Keep it clock calm. He's not.
I don't think Wheeler would do it either. Either.
No.
I think Luzardo would do it.
Lazaro would do it.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think Lazaro would do it.
Yeah, but I know for sure either if it was like the pitchers we just mentioned, or maybe like a Brent Myers in his prime, like they're going to be plunking either Acuna and Albies like instantly. I'm just saying.
There's no way Mitch Williams wouldn't do it. There's no way Mitch Williams wouldn't do it.
No.
Larry Anderson would have got a piece.
Mitch Williams will hit him in his head.
There's one guy
Larry
you're
definitely would hit
missing.
him.
There's one guy you're missing that would have definitely hit him. Tommy Green. Tommy Green
Oh yeah,
would have.
yeah. Tommy Green was
Okay.
nasty. Tommy Green was
rolled it
nasty.
right up in his head.
I mean,
Like-
Damon, you remember when we were kids, right? I mean, these guys are way too young, but I mean, we watched the Phillies in the '70s,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
What team did we always tussle with?
The Dodgers.
They're not. No.
I mean,
they're not in our division anymore.
Royals.
No, the Montreal Expos.
The Pirates.
The Pirates. I'm sorry,
Ah.
the Pirates. The
Okay.
Pirates.
This
Willie
will
Stargell
this will
knows
tell you
that.
the difference in the mentality.
Yeah.
There was I think it was like 78.
Yeah.
It started early in the season. There was a beanball game, and the bench is emptied,
Yeah.
and Mike Schmidt broke his hand
Mhm.
Whoa.
and missed like 40 games with a broken hand.
Mhm.
It was bad.
Yeah.
And then the next time that it happened, I'll never forget this. They got into a beanball game again, and a fight started. And distinctly in the camera, Dave Parker and Mike Schmidt are standing next to each other with their arms folded back by the dugout. And they're like, I'm not getting into that.
I
Yeah.
remember that.
And, I mean, they're looking at it and they're laughing, they're talking to each other. Everybody's on the field, they're tussling, but Mike broke his hand, you know,
Mhm.
in an earlier fight. It's like, I'm not getting in the middle of that. But I just remember him and Parker standing next to one another.
Yeah, I remember that.
And-
when you
and they're
said
like,
that, yeah.
You remember that? It's
I
like, yeah,
remember
we'll
that.
keep
I
each other at
understand.
bay. We're just going to stand
Yeah.
here and watch.
They would go
I
at it.
remember once where Cowboy West, Joe West, broke up a fight and he suplexed the guy.
What?
Does anybody remember that?
I think I do remember that.
Yeah,
I
where he
saw
picked the
videos
guy-
of it though.
He picked the guy up, one of the Phillies. He picked him up and suplexed him to get him out of the fight.
Wow. Oh wow.
He was an
Yeah.
umpire. I mean,
Yes.
No way, yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
What
Wasn't
the
Earl-
hell?
Wasn't Earl
Yeah.
Hefner, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tell me about it.
Yeah.
That takes WWE to a whole new level.
Right.
Yeah, no, he literally put his arms around him and threw the guy down. Threw the
God,
guy down.
Jesus.
that's
Joe-
there's no give
Joe
to,
West was.
to
Yeah,
the field. Okay,
But I mean, you don't see that anymore. You don't see bench emptiers anymore. You used to get them quite often. And you're right. The Expos were another team that we used to tussle with.
Yeah, but them Pirates were mad. People was walking. It was a time.
I missed
It
the
was a
Pirates
time-
in this division.
Well,
really
I
did.
know, and there was a time that people in Philly, you would see people wearing Pirates hats.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
like, it was common. It was
I
like,
remember with the Pirates that team that they had with
They were-
Stargell and
Stargell
and
and those
Bill,
dudes.
Bill Madlock
Parker,
and Parker,
Bill Madlock. Ah,
Omar,
man, they were
Omar
nice.
Moreno,
They won it.
Omar
They won it
Moreno.
too. Yeah.
And I mean that team, Burt Blyleven,
Burt Blyleven. Yeah.
right? You could play that team straight up and you could beat them, but once you made a mistake, once you gave them an extra out, that was it. It was over. They just lost all respect for you, and then you're on a short end of a 10-0 game. I mean they were a really tough team. They were a really, really good team.
well,
I
folks, if
I
you
think
wanna,
the other thing, I'm sorry, Joe. There's one more thing I got to add to this. I think the reason why they don't do like plunkings anymore like they used to is because I guess I think like either Ben Davis brought it up or even Ruben Amaro or even John Kruk even said it looks like they just policed themselves from actually doing like retaliating anymore. Maybe it's a different game. I don't know.
They're thinking like businessmen, James. They're not thinking like baseball players.
A lot of that ties into it.
It's money, man. It's money.
I don't want to get suspended. Then I lose money. I get fined.
No, it's not the fines. It's like you're cutting your future money off. I mean, if you get hurt in something like that,
all of that. Yeah. All of that.
Yeah, and you got a contract coming, you just cost yourself money.
Right.
And I mean, to now, it's not. We're not talking pennies here. Like I said, it's not 100. It's not 175 a year. It's 175 a game.
yeah,
That's true.
So I mean,
Well,
it's just changed. But it's done this in every sport. It's done it in every sport, even in hockey.
yep.
Even in hockey, the fights are way down. The fights are way down.
It's gotten okay, but it's not the exact same as it once was going to be too.
No,
Nah,
it wasn't. It's not like the Broad Street Bully days at all.
Yeah.
Oh no, not even like a Matthew Barnaby or Claude Lemieux days too,
Or
Yeah.
Carcillo or whatnot.
or Frank Battlelois or actually
Yeah.
that was minor leagues, but still.
But
Yeah.
speaking of paying money, let's pay the bills a little bit. If you want to go to a Phillies game this season and you want to possibly see the next time the Phillies plunk a Brave or whatnot, we have a great sponsor that can hook you up. GameTime.co. Tell them more about it, James.
Yeah, Joe. Today's show is sponsored by our friends over at GameTime.co. Co and all busy Phillies sports fans need tickets last minute. Don't worry, GameTime.co has got you covered for all your Phillies tickets and so much more. You can check them out at your seat view and before you buy and snag on great discounts along the way and so much more at GameTime.co. But remember to scan that QR code at the bottom of your screen next to College Schwarber, like I always say, or visit them online at GameTime.co. That's GameTime.co, and let's go Phils.
So, we talked about briefly, Frank mentioned it earlier about Nola, and, this team for the first time in a long time has a potential surplus of starting pitchers.
Yep.
And, Frank also brought up about the bullpen being in disarray. And, starting pitchers going into the bullpen can only help so much in certain situations, but not the same as having a guy that's been in the bullpen and used to being a bullpen arm. So I'll start with you, Damon. When Aaron Nola comes off of the IL, and in maybe less than a month or so, when Andrew Painter comes up, and even the possibility, and this isn't a guarantee, but someone like Mick Abel comes up, what would you do about the pitcher surplus on this team?
I just had this conversation with one of my students yesterday. Well, he wanted to trade Harper, by the way, for the pitcher from Pittsburgh.
Skeens.
I was like, dude, do you see our pitching that we have? We're loaded. Are you kidding me? But he's like,
We don't need another one.
Yeah, he's like, Mr. Saleem, I thought about it, you're right. I'm like, yeah. Anyway, wow, it's a good problem to have. I'd say Aaron's going to get back into his slot as he should. You're not moving him to the bullpen. That's not even.
That ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, that's not even a thought. So he's where he is. Here's the thing, Joe. I just talked about this yesterday. So the Phillies are in a really peculiar situation because of Alvarado. So we know we need a closer, and you know you need bullpen help. That's a given. So, and I still think you need another bat. Yep. So what you have to look at is, do you rush Painter, meaning if you bring him up, do you let him try to finish out the year and go into the playoffs, or do you still allow him to increase innings, maybe bring him out of the bullpen just to warm up? Because otherwise, if you're talking about putting him in the rotation, I'm not even talking about Abel, but if you're talking about putting him in the rotation, and shout out to Abel, he had a good game his first game up. Now you're talking about moving Suarez in a trade because he's on the last year of his contract. And what can I get for him on the market? I know I need at least two bullpen arms, and I know I need a center fielder, another bat. So now because to according to what Frank's saying, we don't want the collapse. Because I got the Phillies winning it this year. I just get it off my chest. Just because of the pitching. Because of the pitching. They're freaking loaded. I mean, loaded.
They're loaded with starters, Damon, but I'm going to tell you something.
Hold on. Let me just finish. So what I'm saying is, if they can figure out what they want to do with these starters, that's the key. Do I rush it to go for it all, or do I still try to go for it all and still play this out? I don't know, but they have some tough decisions to make. But Nolan's not going to the bullpen. That's not even an option.
Yeah, I agree with you that they're loaded with starting pitching. They have it's disgusting the wealth of starting pitching that they have. I've never seen it in my life. I've never.
It's even better than when they had the five.
I've been watching baseball. I've been watching baseball, and I've been keenly aware of baseball since I was about 6 years old. Okay, before that I didn't. But since I've been about 6 years old, I've been aware of what baseball is, mainly because of my grandfather. And back then, he used to say he hated the Dodgers because the Dodgers for 30 years had great pitching. He said nobody should have great pitching for 30 years. It shouldn't be possible, you know. Well, the Phillies are in a position that they could have great pitching for probably the next 5, 6, 7 years. And I know this: when you get into the playoffs, it doesn't matter in the regular season, but when you get into the playoffs, your weaknesses are exposed. Okay, because you are playing against the best players in the league. Well, their biggest weakness is bullpen. And they don't have starters to pitch complete games anymore, Damon. They're coming out in the 6th and 7th inning. And you got to lean on that bullpen. And there's nobody there. Alvarado absolutely skewered them. He killed them with what he did.
I'm so done with Swam. I want to cut his hair off.
And I'm going to tell you something. I was never really all that. I was never really all that in on the Alvarado boat anyway, because the guy's wild. He can't control himself. He can't control what he's throwing at the plate. Much like the guy from Atlanta this week, he looked just like Alvarado. You know, I mean, he would walk the bases loaded, you know, and strike you out. But I mean, like, wow, so that guy, does he have a doppelganger? Did Alvarado put uniform on so he can keep playing? Because it looked just like him. You know, I mean, he was pitching like
Trader.
Anyway. Yeah, right. But the Phillies, look, Suarez is gone. They have to trade him. Because they're not going to sign him.
Thinking like me. He's thinking like me.
They're not going to sign him. You got to trade Suarez. And the problem with that is he's a rental. Everybody knows it. You know, I mean, unless the team he goes with wants to keep a left-hander in their lineup, you know. So Suarez is gone. And Damon, I heard that a deal was proposed to the A's, where they were going to send him Crawford, Painter, and a player from the team to get their closer.
No.
Who
Nah,
still
I'm
has-
not doing
Oh,
that.
who
Nope.
still had 5 years of control.
No.
I read it. I know what I read.
I don't
But
know,
the A's
man.
turned it.
Nah.
The A's turned it down because they like the 5 years of control on the guy.
Nah,
Yep.
it's too much for a
Yeah,
closer.
that
But
you're
no,
just selling the
they have
farm
to fix
for
their
just one
bullpen.
guy.
I'm going to tell you something. The window for the Phillies to win is not closed. But I'll tell you right now, all it needs is weather sealer, and then it's shut for good. I mean, that's how close it is. There's no opening in the window. It's letting air into the seams. But because they can't run this team back again, they have to start flipping it because they're too old.
Well,
This is it. This is their last shot with this punch.
I'm with you.
Real quick, piggyback off you saying, my concern is that lineup at sometimes in just in terms of their approach to the plate, and I wish they could find a way to bring Reese back. I wish they would never let Reese go.
They might still land. They might still get Reese back because Milwaukee don't want to pay him.
Yeah,
we might get Reese. We might get Reese on a rental. We might get him on a rental.
Timeout. Pause. Because I've heard this all week, and so I remember when we had Reese Hoskins. I was sitting on this show and other shows that people were trying to convince me that if Reese is going to go, let Reese go. We don't need him. Blah, blah, blah. He's not and I'm just going, okay, now all of a sudden it comes back around and now we need Reese?
Well, this is the nature of Philadelphia fans. We're schizophrenic, dude. We're schizophrenic and we're manic. We're manic and we're schizophrenic.
2 years ago.
No. We live in the moment.
Wow.
Okay, and at the moment back then, until Reese hit the bat slam, Reese was not playing well.
Yeah,
and we were justified for thinking what we were thinking. But now Reese is hitting 282. He's batting really well. He's healthy. He said he's fully healthy for the first time in a long time, and it shows. Okay.
He was coming off an injury. Major.
Last night he struck out 3 times. So
maybe it was because homesick. Maybe he was homesick.
Yeah. I miss the reason why I miss him. He stabilizes that lineup. He doesn't swing a jump.
Yeah.
No,
that's true.
But the problem with bringing Reese back is what do you do with the defense? I mean, do you make him the DH? Do you make him the DH and put Schwarber in left?
Nope.
Do you put him back at first base and move Harper to right and Castellanos to left?
Yes.
You know what?
Okay.
I would do that. Damn it, Harper. We're trying to win.
No, Harper said he would go back to right field if they got the right first baseman. And I know Reese Hoskins is the right first baseman.
Put him back in there. And you know what?
Now you put Mr. Butterfingers. Now you got Mr. Butterfingers at first base who cost us playoff games with his bad defense. Does everybody remember that?
Does everybody
remember that?
However, he's the one who's
Super Bowl
won you
trophy.
playoff
He got
games
good
as
hands.
well.
Yes, but he
Exactly.
also gave games away. And,
He had a
like
good
I
World
told you,
Series, though, Frank. He had a good World Series when that a few years ago. He had a good series.
yeah, but he lost the game for us. There was a game in there where he made an error and it cost us a game.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is what I'm talking about, Damon, where your weaknesses are exposed in the playoffs. I mean, you see it more in football than you see it in baseball. But, I mean, definitely in that World Series, the weakness with the Phillies was they did not have the pitching to match Houston.
Right.
Houston went 9 deep in their pitching staff. We only went 6 or 7.
If I'm going to trade for an infielder, I'm going to trade for Arenado. Because at least I know 2 things. Number one, it's a Gold Glover at third base. He's a guy that literally comes with the resume of a Mike Schmidt. But we're not going to have the pleasure of him at his prime. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I still feel like he can bring with him his bat, his defense. Yes. And I feel like it's a better, more viable trade to do than a Reese Hoskins. But James,
that's not a bad thought. Not a bad thought.
James, I wanted to get your take on the surplus of the Phillies starting pitching. What you would do?
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. I never thought I would say this, but I think when Noah comes back, I would move him into the bullpen like we talked about a couple weeks ago, because I mean, you think about the pitchers that you got right now. I mean, the thing, it's interesting because you think about the times when you think about like when the Phillies were starting to start to lose control of their, they're starting pitching a little bit. But I think right now more than anything, I mean, if you want to bring up like Andrew Painter up sooner rather than later, I mean, I guess the most important thing is that you got to figure out like who will be the guy that you'll like replace in regards of like who you're going to replace in that starting rotation. And I think I mean, Nola's one of those guys. I mean, you'll probably have to move to the bullpen. I mean, if you have to do that, I mean, I'll be perfectly fine with that. But at the same time, too, it's just that I see the starting pitching looking. I mean, so far they're okay. I mean, they're doing good so far. But at the same time, I would wish a little bit more success down the road too, especially with some of your top starters like Luzardo and even Zach Wheeler, who had himself a good game on Thursday, but he couldn't just. But it's just struggled towards the end of that game. But I mean, that's going to be a big problem to have later on in this season too.
One of the things that I would also say is that with the Aaron Nola, and I know that Damon and Frank might disagree, but this is part of the reason why I'm saying the way to convince Aaron to go into the bullpen. When you have a starter, Aaron in the last 2 seasons has lost some mileage on his pitches. And sometimes that is the wear and tear of a pitcher that has pitched a lot of innings in his career. And Aaron has done that, and he has been successful at doing that. But you had this guy for a long time. He's signed a long-term contract. You want to preserve whatever you have left in Aaron Nola's arm. But you also, at a 93, 94 mile an hour fastball that sometimes flattens out, that's not always going to get it done in the longevity of a starter. But when starters have moved to the bullpen, and Taijuan Walker is the latest example of this, they gain miles an hour mileage on their fastball and other pitches. And I would say if it gave Aaron Nola the ability to empty the tank in 2 innings and raise that mileage on his fastball and other pitches up by a tick or 2, I feel like that's going to be more beneficial for both the team and Aaron Nola. Is it a long-term fix? No. It's a short-term fix, especially if he's having issues with his recovery, because that's the biggest concern right now, that his arm slot or whatever was going on with his ankle had kind of thrown off his rotation. And so, I want to make sure that Aaron's right, not just for this season, but for the next couple seasons. And because having a pitcher with a dead arm for 3 or 4 seasons isn't going to do you any good. You need Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm going to tell you, Aaron Nola, in his entire career, has never thrown from the bullpen. Okay?
Neither did Brett Myers, but Brett Myers succeeded at that.
Brett Myers is not Aaron Nola.
I know.
Okay?
Nah,
Aaron Nola does not possess the fastball that you need to be a bullpen pitcher. He is not a 98 mile an hour guy. He tops out at 94 when he's on.
Right.
And the reason he's effective is because that fastball, even though it's slower than the top guys in the bullpen, it sets up his curveball. But you need a fastball. You need to come in and be able to throw 98, or else it's not going to work as a guy coming out of the bullpen.
I would agree. And Taijuan, when he was a starting pitcher, he topped out at 95 with his fastball. But when he went into the bullpen, he did hit 98. And
I'll tell you what. If you look at Taijuan Walker's splits, and I have, his first time through the lineup, the batters. I mean, he usually, last night was different. I don't know what was going on with him last night, but he was giving up. He was over the plate so much last night. He had nothing on he had no movement on his ball at all. But the first couple times through the lineup, or the first time through the lineup, he's really effective. He's effective for 3 innings, and then he falls right off the face of the earth. He gets tired and his ball flattens out, and he doesn't do anything but hit barrels. And he's a better choice to go into the bullpen than Aaron Nola. I would rather move Aaron Nola into a fourth starter slot than to move Aaron Nola into the bullpen. I mean, his whole life he's been programmed to throw 200 innings a year, and to change that now and have him get up and down and up and down and up and down 5 times in a week, you're gonna kill him. And you just gave him what, $180 million contract? You own him for the next 7 years, and you're gonna destroy that arm if you do that. You're absolutely going to destroy that arm. So no, they spent too much money to keep Aaron Nola to make him a bullpen piece. It's not going to happen.
So my next question is, and this is kind of because of Kyle Schwarber. I think Kyle Schwarber right now is on an MVP type trajectory. And I want to know from you guys, Damon, I'll start with you. Who do you think right now, today, is the MVP of the Philadelphia Phillies this season?
Oh, Schwarber, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Schwarber, without a doubt. And yeah, you want to re-sign him. You want to give him a deal. So you got to figure out how to, that from what I'm understanding, what I'm hearing, they don't negotiate during the season.
Yeah.
So you gotta make some decisions. Dombrowski has a lot of work to do. He has a lot of work to do. Starting today. I mean, if you figure last week you had Alvarado, this week you got Harper. But I think if the Phillies can continue to do what they're doing, I mean they'll hold it down. But Schwarber's definitely been fantastic. I think Topper's figured out the lineup. Yeah, and Topper's figured out the lineup by putting Stott at the head of the lineup, and then having Schwarber, clean up so that he's hitting bombs, even though a lot of them still no one's on base, which is the Phillies' biggest struggle. Hitting with running the scoring position, but yeah, he's definitely the MVP of this season, and very good. Yeah,
Frank, is the price tag increasing as Schwarber keeps?
No. Schwarber's going to get $30 million a year. Okay. Yeah, he's going to get $30 million a year, whether it's here or whether it's someplace else. The problem with Schwarber is how many years. I mean, he's 32. So, I mean, how many years are you going to give him?
What would you give him?
See, with me,
3 years. Give him 3 years with a 1 year option or something like that.
And the option would have to be 2 ways. The option it couldn't be a one-way option where the player goes, "Yeah, I'm staying for another year." No, I'm sorry, because at that point, Schwarber's going to be 36, 37 years old. Now, as a DH, that's viable. I mean, he could be a DH for probably the next 7 years and be effective. If he does that, he'll make 500 home runs. He will. He just will, especially in this ballpark. He'll make 500 home runs. The difference is, you got to look at the way the Phillies are structured, and like I said, the window's closing. They're going to start moving younger, and it's like you're going to see Castellanos is going to go. You're going to they have to bring the new kids up. Bowman's going to get traded. Bowman's going to be in a deal. He was part of that. That was the other player. He was part of the A's deal. They were going to throw Bowman there, and they didn't. I mean, the A's said, no, we're going to keep our closer. Boy, would I really love to have that kid. But, Romano has been a big disappointment. They thought they were getting something with him, and he's been a disappointment. The Phillies have a problem because their bullpen is going to kill them. Their bullpen is absolutely going to kill them, and they know it. And Dombrowski knows it, and he better make a deal. They need bullpen more than they need a bat. They really do.
I agree.
They're hitting smarter this year. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But if they don't get that bullpen fixed, they ain't winning anything. They ain't going anywhere.
So Schwarber, okay, $30 million, okay.
No,
you're going to have to pay him. He's the MVP of the team. And whether he's here
right.
or whether
somebody said
whether
50,
he goes,
30s,
no, he won't get 50. He'll get 34, between 30 and 35 million a year. Yeah. And I mean, that's the going rate for a guy that's hitting 45 home runs. I mean, he's going to get it.
45. You mean 50 or 60?
And it's a DH.
Well, I mean, he's going to do that this year, but that's not his career path.
Oh, I
know that.
But
he's having a contract year. He's definitely having a contract year, and being that June's coming, he could have 30 home runs by the All-Star break, which would be scary.
I
mean,
And I mean, I say this in jest, Frank, but he's been compared to Babe Ruth, and I know that you watched Babe Ruth play.
He saw the.
You know what, Joe? This is a family show. This is a family show, so I won't say what I was just thinking.
He saw the Babe and Connie Mack.
I'm old, but I ain't that old. I'm old, but I ain't that old.
He still got his chicken frame, James. He got his chicken frame.
Speaking of golfing the ball out of the yard like Schwarber does, you can hit the links this year, this season, and golf season is in full throat by picking up your new golf club or apparel from PGA Tour Superstore. James, tell them about it.
Yeah, Joe. Today's show is sponsored by our friends over at PGA Tour Superstore.com. Hey, golf fans, it's time to level up your golf game with PGA Superstore.com. Don't miss out on exclusive opportunities and to get your hands on premium golf equipment, including hats, golf clubs, golf tees, and more at PGA Tour Superstore.com. But remember to scan that QR code at the bottom of your screen or visit them online at PGASuperstore.com. That's at PGATourSuperstore.com for more information.
So we're going to go right into the Eagles. And yesterday, before me and James went on with Fly Like an Eagle, there was news that broke about Bryce Huff being traded to the San Francisco 49ers for a mid-round pick, which I feel like this was a salary dump, and Howie Roseman, like once again, just blows my mind with what he can do to manipulate the cap. And I said this on Fly Like an Eagle yesterday. The way that they basically did it was that they converted his salary into a signing bonus. And they paid him cash up front to walk out the door. Now, I don't know about any of you guys, but Howie Roseman walked up to Jeffrey Lurie and said, I can get rid of him today. What do you need? I need $8 million, please. Can you please write me a check for $8 million? I don't know anybody who can write me a check for $8 million. But if I knew that person, I wouldn't be on these airways right now. But here's the thing. Howie Roseman was able to manipulate the cap so much so that he was able to save cap space for this year and get rid of a guy that is a part-time player at the very least. So I'll start with you, Frank. What was your immediate reaction to the trade?
Well, I mean, I don't know whether you guys know this or not. It wasn't talked about a whole lot, but part of the owners' meeting was putting a limit on how the cap can be manipulated.
Yes.
Okay. And that was, I mean, just like the tush push, that was specifically entered to kill the Eagles. Because
to be clear, though, that hasn't gone through yet. That hasn't gone through yet.
Okay. It won't go through this year. It'll go through next year.
I just want to be clear.
It won't affect this bunch of players. It'll affect the next bunch.
Yeah.
But they want to be able to limit a guy like Howie, who is an absolute genius with the cap, and can pay a guy $9 million walking out the door, but make $15 million in cap space on the team. Okay? You heard it here first. But Mr. Watt is going to be an Eagle.
Ooh.
Okay? And it's going to be because of this. Mr. Watt from Pittsburgh. TJ.
He's
TJ
coming
Watt,
here.
He's going to come here.
Wow.
He's going to come here.
Okay, what am I giving up for him?
It don't matter. They got 1 million draft picks next year. They don't need the draft picks. They don't need them. They'll give up. They have 2 seconds and I think 3/3 next year.
Well, they have 14 total picks after yesterday.
Right. Well, guess what? They just loaded the guns to walk up to Pittsburgh and go, you want to rebuild your team? I got plenty of picks. Give us Mr. Watt. Mr. Watt, hey, you know what? We have $15 extra million in our kitty. Do you want to play in Philadelphia? Hell yeah, I want to play for the Super Bowl champions. That's going to happen. Now think about Carter and Watt on the same line.
Ooh. I think I just got flashbacks of Reggie White and Clyde Simmons.
There you go.
Okay,
that's why he did it. That's why he did it.
I got to ask you, Damon, what do you think of the trade?
When I first heard it yesterday, I was like, "Wow, this is really happening."
I can't believe the Niners took him.
Yeah, and then just listen to you guys and how he did it. That's even more interesting than how he was able to get him to do a signing bonus. And I did hear the thing about with the cap the other day. They're trying to change that thing, but this is good for the Eagles. Yeah, Huff. Couple things. My philosophy is hard to play in Philly, but when you can't play,
Yeah.
well, when you show nothing. Dude, can I tell y'all honestly? And I text this with my brother and my friends. I have a thread. I said he huffed and he puffed, but he huffed and he puffed.
Blew himself out of town.
Much, but he got out of here, right?
Yeah.
I've never seen his face. I've never really seen like his face until like.
I don't even. What was his number? I don't even remember his number.
Zero.
Zero.
Yeah. That's
That's
what kind of a career it was.
Not the amount of time he contributed on the field. James.
That's the only amount of time he actually played.
That's appropriate.
Zero. And I'm like, dude, I
appropriate.
never really saw his face. Because he was rarely on the field. He had his helmet on. He was on the field, obviously.
I want to give you guys two perspectives. We all know that a football team dresses 53 men, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know that. Do you realize that this NFL team, this Super Bowl champion, these Philadelphia Eagles, they dress 53 men? That's not the difference. But they carry two people that they never played. Bradbury and Bryce Huff. They got like Super Bowl championship rings for nothing.
Yeah.
They
He was
did
deactivated
nothing.
in the Super Bowl, right? He was deactivated, Huff.
But
They couldn't.
He still got a ring.
Yeah, he's now with his former defensive coordinator from the Jets, whoever that guy is. That's
Rob Sala.
fine. I mean, I don't hate on the guy, but
No.
he gave us I'm happy for the Eagles. Like, now I don't know. Here's what I'm thinking, because the kid we drafted from Alabama, oh my God,
Jahai Campbell.
Yeah,
Jahai
Campbell. Yeah.
So they were talking about Jahai Campbell in the early part of the college football season. He was like one of the top 5 players. They were talking. He's like top 5 player.
Yeah.
Period. Right.
Yep.
So we get him because of the shoulder injury. So now Frank made me raise my eyebrow with the TJ Watts thing, but I'm looking at it like Vic Fangio's already got plans on how he wants to use his Campbell kid, and Huff wasn't part of the plan. He's like, right now Huff's in the way. I got plans for this kid. He's coming. They're stacked, dude. By the way, I'm gonna get it off the table. We're going back to Super Bowl. We're going back.
Oh, absolutely.
We're gonna win.
Absolutely.
We're gonna win it again.
Yep. They are. Well, I mean,
freaking down.
I hear, man. And I mean, in the pre-show notes, you were talking about Jalen Hurts. Discussion on Jalen Hurts. And you know what? I'll save my comments for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna save mine too.
So I'm gonna dive right into, because Damon kind of segued me into this. So James, if you still have the graphic, that'd be great. But the schedule for the Eagles. If you don't, that's okay.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do actually. Here we go.
If you can pull that up, and Damon, and I'll start with Damon first. Give me your breakdown of what you think the Eagles are going to do with this schedule, because this schedule is considered the third most difficult schedule in the NFL. I see it as that in some ways, and in other ways I don't. So what's your takeaway with the Philadelphia Eagles schedule?
Well, most of their games are against playoff teams, which is fine. That's fine, as it should be. But you still have, I think you still have a hold on your division. I like us to win our division, and I like us to win the first game of the season against the Cowboys. That's going to be a nice one. And what you got, is it the Rams and the Detroit Lions after that? Those will be interesting games. But overall, I got us, what was it, 17? So like another either 14-3, was it 13-4, somewhere in that ballpark. They just know how to win, man. They just know how to win.
Frank, I'll go to you. What's your takeaway from the upcoming Eagles schedule?
I know according to the numbers, it was ranked the third hardest schedule in football. But according to the way the NFL set up the Eagles schedule, There's no doubt in my mind it is the most difficult schedule ever given to a Super Bowl champion, because the Eagles don't have back-to-back home games at all this year and have 2 back-to-back road games. And it's I'm telling you, the NFL do not think the Eagles are sexy enough for them to be a Kansas City Chief organization or a Patriot organization. And the biggest reason for that is Jalen Hurts in their mind. They don't see Jalen Hurts as a poster boy for the league. You know, he's just not sexy enough for them. And they're all about sexy and they're all about money. And Jalen Hurts isn't that. Jalen Hurts is just, I'm going to do my business. I'm going to go out and, you know, do what I got to do. And I didn't see anything that any team in the NFC made themselves better as a team, at least better than the Eagles. Nobody in the NFC has a better roster than the Eagles, and consequently, none of those teams, well, only 2 of those teams voted to keep the tush push in. And believe me, there should be some bullseyes in the locker room for those teams that voted against us. And the number one bullseye for me is Game 1, Dallas. Yeah, I think the Eagles are going to put a 40-point whooping on the Dallas Cowboys Game 1. And I think the Eagles are going to finish probably 12 or 13 wins. They're going to win the division. Washington is not going to be as good as they were last year because they ain't playing a last-place schedule this year. They're playing a second-place schedule, and they have to play 7 playoff teams, and they ain't going to make it. I mean, they don't have the guns on defense to make it. They just don't. I mean, it's just realistic. You know, you got to be realistic, and they got to go play teams, and it's all about weaknesses, and their biggest weakness is their defense. Even though they have a really good front line, they're not gonna beat these teams. They're gonna wind up with, you know, they'll wind up second in the division in a wild card, but they're not gonna be the team they were last year. They will not be in the NFC Championship next year. They still got a couple of years to go before they get there. But the Eagles are going to win again, and the Eagles come back. They're going to win the Super Bowl because I don't see any team. It's going to be them in Buffalo in the Super Bowl, and Buffalo's going to fall short. Buffalo's going to fall short against the Eagles
again.
You know, there's Joe Burrows, Allen, Lamar Jackson. What do they have in common?
Never made it to the Super Bowl?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Those quarterbacks have never beaten Jalen Hurts.
That's true.
Okay. These are supposed to be the guys at the top of the elite list.
And
they've never beaten Jalen Hurts.
We're going to get into this right now. Don't worry. You settle down, Mr. Finnegan. We're going to get to that. I'm going to start us off in this, and then I'm going to throw it open. So this past week, I guess it's that time of year where people like Chris Sims and Pro Football Focus put out their rankings for quarterbacks. Chris Sims put Jalen Hurts in tier 3 quarterbacks, and put CJ Stroud above him in tier 2. Pro Football Focus put Jalen Hurts as overall the 5th best quarterback, but within QBR put him 23rd in the league. I'm going to start, I guess, with Frank, considering you have a lot to say about it. Frank, Jalen Hurts, do you think – I'm going to say real simple question because we're not going to get cute about it. Do you think Jalen Hurts is an elite quarterback, and where would you rank him in the NFL starting quarterbacks?
I'd rank him second. He is definitely an elite quarterback. And you know, those guys, here we get back to the sexy word again. They're sexy. They throw long bombs. They light up the ratings board when they're on TV because they do what they need to sell beer. Okay? Jalen Hurts ain't about selling beer. Jalen Hurts is about winning games. Jalen Hurts, in my lifetime, is the smartest quarterback I've ever seen play for the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's saying a lot. That's saying a lot, you know. But Jalen Hurts, that guy, it's the measurables that they use to make him the fifth. And Chris Sims is he's just a little bitch. You know, he's so petty. He's so petty. It's not even funny. And it's because he can't play. He couldn't play like his father. And his father was always a whiner too. Even on television, his father was a whiner. But I don't care what he says. I don't care what Pro Football Focus says. I know this. Jalen Hurts wins games. Okay? He doesn't care how he gets it done. He wins games. And to me, that's the measure of a quarterback. He wins games. He was the MVP of the Super Bowl. And had they not lost the last Super Bowl he was in against Kansas City, he'd have been the MVP of that one and the MVP of the season. Jalen Hurts is a damn good quarterback. And he's been slow. And I love that they left a chip on his shoulder. I love that the NFL left a chip on the Eagles' shoulder trying to take the tush push away from him. Because it's really easy after the winning the Super Bowl to get complacent and go on the banquet circuit and get fat and forget about what got you there. This team is not going to forget what got them there. No way are they going to forget. They're going to come back with an attitude, and they're going to kick the shit out of every team that voted against them. And Jalen Hurts is just going to be Jalen Hurts. He's going to do what he has to do to win the game, and he don't care what he has to do. He can throw. He can hand it off. And luckily, we got the best running back in football to hand it off to, who they're not going to run as much this year, by the way. They're going to cut him back because they gave him an extra year, so they want to get that out of him.
Damon, same question. Do you think Jalen Hurts is an elite quarterback, and where would you rank him in the starting quarterbacks in the NFL?
I'm going to put him. Yes, he's elite, and he's number one. The reason why he's number one because he beat the best quarterback twice. He outplayed the best quarterback twice in the biggest game on the stage, and this time he took on the hardware. Let me go back. A couple of things Frank said, and I agree with. Those guys are sexy. We grew up, all four of us grew up in the era where you make your bones in the playoffs. So those quarterbacks, the Lamars, the Josh Allen, and I like Joe Burrow. That's my guy. And that's not his fault that Cincinnati won't give him an offensive line. So when I hear these idiotic comments, he has weapons from Joe DeCamara, but it was okay for Kurt Warner to have the greatest show on turf. That was okay. And the Marshall Faulk, that was okay for that. But all of a sudden, he got weapons. Yeah, he does, and he's using them. I'm going to tell you who this guy is, Joe, James, Frank. He reminds me of Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. He's not as overt. He's an assassin. He's not as overt about it as they were. They would dunk on their moms and say, "Mom, I'm sorry, but I had to dunk on you." He's a quiet assassin. You don't think when the Commanders said what they said about him, we're going to make him a running quarterback, you don't think he listened to that and dropped double nickels on them? Yeah. I'll say this. And Frank said he's the smartest quarterback he's seen. You know why Frank says this? Because I've never, ever, ever in my life with sports ever heard this. Jalen Hurts can't read the blitz. He can't pick up the blitz. He picks up the phone and calls Wink Martindale of the New York Giants when he's the defensive coordinator at the time and said, "What are you doing to me with this blitz?" And the man told him, look up the stats last year. Joe, use a statsman. Check out the stats when he was against the blitz last year. Check out the stats.
He had
pull that thing up.
I already did. He's a 71 completion percentage when blitzed, and he's an over 80% quarterback rating when being blitzed from his strong side. From his weak side, he's even better at a 91% completion percentage.
So I'm saying if a man is being told, I have a weakness, I got to figure this out, you go to the source. So people, they were like, well, why didn't he go through the coaches? Nah, damn that. I'm not going through any coaches. I'm calling this man directly, man to man, and asking him. Man, that blew my mind, y'all. That blew my mind. Dude, you're good. You're good with me.
That's Peyton Manning level stuff, because that's what Peyton Manning used to do. That's what Peyton Manning used to. I mean, Brian Dawkins was the same way when he played. Like, Brian Dawkins was a film nut. He was the first one there and the last one to leave. And thank God He's on the staff now. He's coaching the safeties. I love that. I love
he wants
that.
a piece. He wants a piece. But I'm saying, but for you to call your division rival, opposing, your rival coordinator to get that information and then capitalize. Yep. So the best play, one of my best plays, and I didn't watch it 6 or 7 times, James, maybe more, is the touchdown to Devontae Smith in the Super Bowl. And they said, oh, he can't throw. Oh, they took Saquon. He just balled out, man. Man, please. So Chris Sims, you could take your second, your third, your 50 tiers and just tear the hell up on out of here because it means nothing. It means
Damon,
nothing.
Have you seen the clip?
Nothing.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure it's right before the dagger play, right? And they have a clip of on the sidelines of the Chiefs, and they're going, "Look, the Patriots came back 28-3. We can do this. We got this. We can get this. 28-3. They did it. We can do it. We have the guys that can do it." And the guy's no sooner getting it out of his mouth than Jalen's dropping back and throwing the dagger. And the next shot they show in this clip is the same guy on the sidelines hanging his head like, I can't believe that just happened. It's like game over. Game over. I mean, like he put a stamp on it and said, "That's it. It's over. It's done. We're not playing this game. You ain't coming back." Yeah. The only reason they scored the points.
Devontae, I gotta get you one.
The only reason they scored the points they did. The only reason they scored the points they did was because they put the second stringers in for the last 8 minutes of the game.
Yeah. Dude, they scored at the end of the third quarter, the Chiefs, and I said to myself, all the Eagles have to do, Joe, is kick field goals from this point on. There's no way for them to come back.
Yep. Yeah, there's no way.
They're not coming back. They were done. I've never seen Andy Reid, Spagnuolo, or Mahomes look bewildered. I've never seen that.
Did you hear what Spag said? Spag said he couldn't watch the game.
Yeah.
He couldn't go back. He went 3 weeks before he went back and watched the game. He couldn't do it.
Well,
he couldn't do it.
If you look at the sideline views on the Super Bowl when Barkley's telling him when they called the playback from AJ, he's like, "Yo, guys, don't worry about it." He said, "Get the 000, get the 000." And then they showed the night before when they were speaking. Man, they were fired up. They were like, they disrespecting us, talking about a three-peat.
Yeah.
They said, man, so they Muhammad Ali them. Ali would beat you before he got into the ring. That's why he did the showboat stuff. He said that. He said I had to out-psych my opponent. He said that's why I did that, right? Get you mentally before we even get in the ring. The Eagles was mentally like, we gonna tear y'all a new one.
Yep.
And they ripped them. I gotta go watch it again, James.
I think they're gonna do it this year to the league, Damon. I think the Eagles have been so disrespected by the NFL because they don't like us. They just don't like Philadelphia. And I mean, they're trying to show us in the other. Look, they tried to legislate. They tried to legislate a play out of football. The teams can't beat the play, so they went, well, let's legislate it out. Let's just make the play illegal. Because the defensive coordinators can't figure out how to beat the tush push, and they can't do it themselves. Their offensive coordinators can't get their own players to do it themselves, and the Eagles do it so well. It's like the Packers sweep. Nobody could stop the Packers sweep for 8 years, and they won championships. Well, this is the Eagles' play. And now next year, it's going to go. The play's going to go next year.
No, Joey's upset with it because Joey. I want to elaborate. Your buddy, hey Joey, Sean McDermott is no longer family. He's out. He's out. He's no longer family.
Yeah.
Spags is still family. We just had to beat him. Andy's still family. Like they're family, but that was business on the Super Bowl day. Like that wasn't personal. But McDermott's out. You used to play more than we did, Frank. They used to play more than we did, and then you want it out. Get out of here.
Yeah. That's because they couldn't run it. That's because they couldn't run it.
You're no
sour grapes.
Well, I can't. You know what, Damon? Damon, we're going to get our revenge on McDermott in the Super Bowl next year. His team is going to be playing the Eagles in the Super Bowl. They're finally going to cross that line. They're finally going to make the Super Bowl, and they're going to get there, and the Eagles are going to use them like Charmin toilet paper. They're just going to wipe their ass with that team. I mean, it's going to be the same thing.
You wanted to get in on this.
I'm sorry, man. I wanted to read.
No? Okay. So I wanted to kind of chime in. So here's my thing. Now, y'all know how I feel about Jalen, and I've never made it hidden how I feel and why I feel the way that I do. Here's what I'm going to say about both Pro Football Focus and Chris Sims and every other nerd out there that has a podcast that ranks Jalen Hurts less than 5. Let me put it this way. I think Damon's kind of swayed me in because I had him at 2, but I think Damon's kind of swayed me in one way. Damon's right. There's an old saying that Ric Flair said, in order to be the man, you have to beat the man. And Jalen Hurts went and faced Patrick Mahomes, outplayed him, but lost. And we've admitted that. And all these people are like, well, you got to admit the losses as much as you admit the wins. Yes, I'm admitting both. But how he played him is still how he played him in both. The second time around, and I remember the NFL films mic'd up what Jalen had said on the sidelines to his teammates. And it sticks with me. He said, they took my soul the last time, and I'm here to get my soul back. And the idea that guy said, I am not here just for a trophy. I am not just here to be Super Bowl MVP. I'm not just here for that iron and whatnot. I am here because they stole something from me, and I'm coming to reclaim it. And understand something. You could say he doesn't throw 5,000 yards in a season. You could say he doesn't throw 40 touchdowns in a season. But Frank was absolutely right about one thing. All these guys that they want to put in front of Jalen Hurts has whooped that ass on all occasions. So y'all can take a number, but you can't get. You guys are worried about getting past Patrick Mahomes. That's fine in the AFC. That's your problem. That's not a me problem. But the problem is once you get past Patrick Mahomes, then you still have to face number 1. You still have to face one.
Look at that teacher teach. Look at that teacher teach. Go ahead, teach.
And understand this. Jalen Hurts said on the podium, I'm not done yet. And that meant what? And this was documented by Howie on an interview about a month ago. Howie came in with his bruised forehead.
I was at the parade, by the way. I saw it live.
Took a beer can to the dome. Took a beer can to the dome.
Into the NovaCare complex 3 days after the parade, and he saw a light on. And he should have been the only one in the office at the time. He was waiting for Nick. They were going to work on free agency. And he had several meetings that day. So he showed up to the office early. He saw a light on. He walked in. It was the film room. Sure enough, Jalen Hurts has got a notepad and his laptop, and he's going over film from the Super Bowl. And Howie said, what are you doing? He's like, correcting my mistakes. So the guy just smoked Patrick Mahomes, but you're going to be there correcting your mistakes. And Howie's like, okay, I'll leave you to it. Like, I'm not going to, what am I going to say? Like Howie said in the review, what am I going to say? Leave? You go on vacation? Like, dude, take time off.
What you said, Joe, real quick, what you said was beautiful about the soul. And I remember him saying that. I said to myself the day before the Super Bowl, I said, Jalen's going to throw a pick. I kid you guys now. I said, and I mean something that said immediately came over me. I was cleaning my bathroom. I never forget. I'm listening to the radio. I said, something said he's going to throw a pick, but it said he's going to be okay. He threw the pick, and he bounced right back.
Yep.
And I said, damn. He threw the pick, and he bounced right back. I remember, because remember he had a streak of not throwing one. And I said, I got something say he's going to throw one. Just get out the way, but he's going to be all right. So, he studied, man. Listen, guys, I hate to run on you because I got to go get my car fixed.
Yep.
But
thank you for joining us, Dame. Always good to talk.
Dame, good to see you again, brother. I love you, brother.
Too, man. I love you guys, too. Continue to have a good show. And let's go Phils, man. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Good to see you again, buddy.
We're
too,
going
man.
to actually transition. Frank, we're going to say goodbye to you. We're going to transition. This past week, me and James had the privilege to talk to a icon in this city, a guy who's done play-by-play commentary for the Philadelphia Flyers for over 30 years, Jim Jackson. As I said to Jim in an email after the interview, you were the soundtrack to a lot of people's childhoods as far as
Yeah.
Flyers are considered. I'm going to say goodbye to Frank. Frank, it's always been good to talk with you. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely.
But
Check
please,
back with me in 4 or 5 weeks. Let's see where the bullpen is.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So please stay by and stay tuned and get your popcorn ready and enjoy this Jim Jackson interview.
See you guys.
Everybody, welcome in to another edition of the Pass and Half Sports Show. And today we have a special guest join us here on our airwaves. He is the voice more than 30 years or so between the orange and black, and he joins us here today. He is no one other than Jim Jackson. JJ, good to see you, sir. How are you?
Good to see you guys too. I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing great. I apologize for my voice being all raspy. I'm dealing with a little bit of semi-laryngitis here, but it's good to know that you're on us here today. Good to chat with you, and also it'll be good to know to talk some Flyers hockey with us today. We really do appreciate it.
Always great to talk Flyers hockey. Let's do it.
Yeah, so looks like there was a lot of moves that the Flyers made this offseason in the regards of the coaching, of the head coaching tree that the Flyers had. So it started in mid-March when the Flyers decided to let go of John Tortorella as their head coach. And then right after that, they made an interim coach and Brad Shaw to become the interim for a couple weeks or so until the season came to an end. But then Brad Shaw decided to be let go by the Flyers not long after that, and they decided to bring in Rick Tocchet to become the new bench boss for the Flyers in the 2025-2026 season. So, JJ, the first question I want to ask you is, what was your first immediate reaction when you hear the news that Rick Tocchet deciding to leave the Vancouver Canucks and taking this job to become the new Flyers coach in the 2025-2026 season?
Well, I mean, I'm all for it. Tocc's a buddy of mine, so I'm kind of biased. But, I mean, when you look at it from the outside, it's really a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. A lot of people are going to say, well, they're going back to the old Flyers again. But he's only the fourth ex-Flyer to actually coach this team, and that's over 57 years. So that's not really that many. One of them was John Stevens, who, barely played with the Flyers. Craig Berube and Bill Barber are the only other two. And, I mean, I just don't see that as an issue here. Tocchet has been with a lot of different teams now as a coach, as a player. He's seen how it's done in other areas. He's seen how it's done here. He loves how it's done here. He loves the fans here. He loves the organization, the fact that they treat their players as well as any organization. And so he wanted to come back. He was in high demand at Boston, Pittsburgh, Seattle. I think all had interest in him. So the fact that he came here shows, A, that he loves it here, but B, that he sees a future for this team. And he sees that they are the third youngest team in the NHL at season's end, that they have a bunch of young prospects on the way, and that they have 7 picks in the first 2 rounds of June's draft. These people, one writer in particular, who says the rebuild is over, I don't know what he's looking at, because the bottom line is they are in full rebuild, no doubt about it. But the benefits of the last 2, 3, 4 years of the rebuild are now starting to show up. And after they show up in person, in terms of the players getting here, then it'll take a little while before they develop, and then it shows up in the win-loss column. We're hoping it's as soon as this year. They're going to probably make some additions to help this team. They need better goaltending, no question about it. But I think Rick Tocchet sees that this team has a bright future.
So, JJ, the next question I have is, with Rick Tocchet being the 25th coach in Flyers history, and like you brought up earlier about him being one of the former players to now be head coach of the Flyers, my question to you is, with this young roster, what do you think Tocchet can bring, not just as a coach, but as a former player in this city? What do you think he can bring as tangible skill set or tangible advice to some of these young players playing in this city? What advice do you think he can bring to the table?
I mean, it's two-pronged, Joe. I mean, first of all, you have the fact that he was a great player. I mean, he was a guy that is obviously a Flyers Hall of Famer and great numbers, both as a goal scorer and in terms of how he was a physical presence. So he has that, and that still carries weight these days. And there's some doubt about maybe a coaching move, and you have a coach who doesn't have any NHL experience. Even coaches like Ken Hitchcock and John Tortorella, who are well established as outstanding head coaches at this level, they still never really played at this level. And, there's going to be those players who, when they don't really agree with something he's doing, that's going to go to their mind. Yeah, this guy never even played at the NHL level. Can't say that about Talk. He played at this level, and he played at this level very well. And then you point out that he played here, both as a young player and as a veteran player in his 2 stints here. So he's seen the passion of Philadelphia sports fans, and that passion goes both ways. That passion goes in a negative fashion when things aren't going well too. And there will be times when that's going to happen. And he can say, listen, guys, I've been here when it's been good. I've been here when it's been bad. There's no better place in the world to play than Philadelphia when things are going good. There may not be a worse place to play when things are going bad. Boston's not so good. New York can be tough too. There are other cities that are tough on their athletes when things aren't going well. But he's experienced it, so he can tell these players what's good, what's bad, and when to get worried and when not to be worried. So I think that's cachet for him as well. And then on top of that, he's just a good head coach. People are going to say, well, he's never taken his team past the second round in the playoffs. But look at the teams he's coached as a head coach. He's been with teams that were pretty much either rebuilding at the very beginning of the rebuild or Vancouver, which he did take to the second round, could have gotten further, and then they had some internal things develop, which derailed him this year in addition to the injury to Thatcher Demko. So I really think that he's a great choice for all the reasons that we just pointed out, and the experience factor is certainly one of them.
So a part of being a good head coach is having good assistant coaches, being able to have a good supporting cast along with what you bring to the table as a head coach. Currently, as far as I'm aware, Tocchet has not chosen his assistant coaches. However, there is a gentleman by the name of Mark-Luke Richardson that is a possible candidate. Do you know, or have you heard anything, or who would you like to see as Tocchet's assistant coaches?
Yeah, I'm not sure he hasn't chosen them already, Joe, but we just don't know about it. The Flyers, since Keith Jones, Danny Briere took over, pretty close to the vest, and that includes yours truly. I get nothing from them, so I don't have any inside scoop for you here. Who would I want? Well, if Luke Richardson's one of them, I'd be very happy, because Luke Richardson's a quality person who was a great assistant coach in this league. Didn't go great for him as a head coach in Chicago, but again, he was with a team that was at the very bottom of a rebuild. So I don't know what more was expected of him there and why they even let him go. But the bottom line is, as an assistant coach, he has a great reputation. As a person, he has a great reputation. And he's another one of these guys, as we were talking about with Talk, that can say, hey, I played a lot of games in this league. And if he's talking to some defensemen, he can relate to experiences pretty well. So he'd be a great choice. I don't know if he's going to be there. I know if he is chosen, there's going to be others out there again saying another ex-Flyer. But as Danny Briere, I think, mentioned in one of his press conferences, maybe it's because people who've played here, especially when times were better, they're good. They're good at hockey, whether it's coaching or playing. That might have something to do with it. Craig Berube's a pretty darn good head coach. He's won a Stanley Cup, So, Rick Tocchet's done some good things. And so if some of these other guys we mentioned. So if it's Luke, it's Luke. If it's not, I'm sure they'll make good choices. I'll be particularly interested in seeing who they hire as the coach who will handle the power play. It is an area they absolutely have to improve. I mean, goaltending, power play, it's not much doubt those are the two sore spots with this team. 5-on-5 play, they are solid. But if they get more saves and they get some power play goals, this team's a playoff team, in my opinion. So I'll be interested to see who is the power play coach. Talk will have a say in that. Talk's had some pretty good power plays as a coach and as an assistant coach in his career. So he'll probably be involved in the power play, but I assume he'll have a coach who will be in charge of it and not him. Perhaps not. I mean, the head coach could run the power play. That's not out of the realm of possibility, but I tend to think he's going to have an assistant coach in charge of it. So I'll be interested to see that, and we'll see how it plays out.
You're trying to say me, JJ, that Keith Jones not sharing trade secrets with a guy that shared the booth with him for years? I mean,
yeah, I was with him for 17 years. It's gotten me squat as far as getting any information from him. I mean, I'll be very honest with you. I've asked him about a couple free agents. And in the past, he would at least tell me, we're not ready for it yet. This year, he's not telling me that. He's telling me anything's on the table. I really think that's his way of telling me to mind my own business. But the bottom line is, before I would throw out a name, he would definitely say we're not ready yet. He didn't say that this year. So, I don't think that's a scoop. I just think it means they are open to anybody, Mitch Marner, whatever. I don't particularly, my humble opinion, and it's very humble, I don't believe they're in the market for Mitch. I don't think that he's the right fit here right now, based upon the fact that he's another small forward. He's super skilled. I love Mitch Marner as a player. I'm not one of these ones who thinks he's a choke artist or anything like that. I just don't think that's the area of need for the Flyers. So, a winger, they have strong wings, another small forward. They have quite a few small forwards. So if they're going to spend big bucks, which you will spend big bucks on Mitch Marner, I think it would be better allocated toward a center or a number one defenseman or a goalie or whatever. I just don't think a winger, a skilled winger, is really something. They've got Konechny, Michkov, Forster, Tippett, and Brink more. I can go on and on. They have skilled forwards and some others in the pipeline. So to me, I just don't think that's where you'd want to allocate that kind of money. But I was told everything is on the table. So we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. JJ, speaking of Keith Jones and Danny Briere, it looks like this year was a real step back for the Flyers in 24-25. But the most important thing about that rebuild in 23-24, they actually had a little bit of trying to get back to where their full potential was. And now since Rick Tocchet is now the new bench boss for this Flyers team, so if you're Danny Briere and Keith Jones this offseason, what sticks out to you that can they reach? What can the Flyers do to get back to their full potential like they did early on in this rebuild?
Saves and power play goals. Now, they weren't getting the power play goals 2 years ago either, but they were getting more saves, at least until Carter Hart left. And then when Carter left, Sam had he started to tail off. Sam Harrison started to tail off some, and he did come back and have some good starts at the end of that season 2 years ago. But the goaltending since Carter Hart left, the save percentage is something like .875. You just can't win with that. So I don't want to sit here and tell you and oversimplify it, but if they get a save percentage of around 900 last year, this past season, they're right in the hunt for the playoffs, if not in the playoffs. They were at 978, I think, at year's end. Almost impossible to be a successful team with that kind of save percentage. Now, is it all the goalies? No. They were left out to dry sometimes. The defense would leak it from time to time. But I can count on one hand. I'm pretty sure I can count on one hand the amount of times the Flyers out-goaltended the opponent. There weren't many. And you just need more. And Sam had his moments, but Sam had his dips. He had some injury issues. And Fedotov and Kolosov got some chances. Kolosov didn't really come through. Fedotov, after a very tough start, had some decent games. But in general, just all three of them, the goaltending was not good enough. And they will have to have better goaltending next year or in the future moving on. Now, Sam Harrison just went over in the World Championships and was lights out. He was also really good in his one game in the Four Nations. It's in there. He's a good goalie. I love Sam Harrison. I love his mentality. I love his resilience. He's just got to show he can do it on a night-to-night to-night basis. I don't know as if he is a true number one to play like 60 games. He might be a guy that is a 1-1A situation, as Torts had mentioned. But I think he's an NHL goalie and a good one. They just have to find the way to make him be his best which we haven't done yet. It seems as though 2 years ago they overworked him because they just didn't have any other options. And then last year he just couldn't put together long stretches of consistent play. He had 2 or 3, 4 games where he played well, but didn't have that long run. He did have a run from the holidays to about the Four Nations, so that month to month and a week or two, where he was one of the better goalies in the league numbers-wise. That was about the extent of it, though, in terms of his really good long stretch last year. He's got to elongate those good long stretches, put those bad patches away, or at least shorten them up. I think he can. I think he's still, by goaltender standards, young. So I think he's part of the equation, but they might need to add to help him out a little bit more. We'll see. But goaltending and then the power play, which they haven't had over the last 4 years, if you add a goal every other game from the power play, you'd be surprised how much that would impact the record. So if they can get that power play even up to like 20th, I mean, not even into the top half of the league, but just at least respectable, at least, decent. And, it would help so much. Their offensive struggles would not be what we perceive as struggles. A lot of the numbers we see from guys like Konechny and Tippett and all these guys would go up because they'd be getting some production in the power play, which they're getting virtually none here over the last 4 years. So those are the two things. They've been the two things for quite a while, really since Carter left. The goaltending and the special teams, the power play at least, has been an issue for 4 straight years. They were bottom of the league 3 straight, and then last year 3rd from the bottom. So maybe they made some strides last year. They weren't last, but I think they need a bigger jump next year.
Yeah, definitely. I think the other thing too with the power play situation, there's a couple players out there that could be an odds-on favorite to be a part of this power play. And if you could, is there anybody out there that sticks out to you to say that this could be a good piece for this power play in the upcoming season?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, Mitch Marner would be a great piece for the power play, but I don't think that's. If you go that route, you're a pretty small team up front. So I just don't know as if they could go that route. Matvei Michkov should be a tremendous power play performer and looked early in the year like he was going to be just that. They started working everything out high. They don't work it through him. I'm not an expert on how it should run, but I listen to other people who've played the game, and I've heard a lot of people say they should just run the power play through Matvei Michkov. The guy's so creative. He knows where to go with the puck. He can finish if he has to, obviously, but he knows where to go with the puck. He can draw people to him and then get the puck somewhere else where there's an outnumbered situation. I don't buy that the Flyers do not have enough talent to have a decent power play. Maybe not enough talent to be the number 1 power play in the league, but they have enough talent. Travis Konechny can score. Owen Tippett can score. Tyson Force is developing into a scorer. They have guys who can score. Bobby Brink should be a good power play performer as well, and was at times last year. And then out high has been a problem. I mean, they've tried just about everyone. They've tried certainly Jamie Drysdale. It did show some strides last year. They tried Zamula. They've tried Ristolainen. They've tried Sanheim briefly. They haven't tried Cam York in that role yet, which is a little surprising because as a junior player and playing at Michigan, he definitely ran power plays and was pretty good from what I hear. He's not a guy who's going to have the big shot at the point, but he's a good distributor. The fact that they've struggled as much as they have and haven't really even tried him at the power play, I think he might have had a cup of coffee on the power play 2 seasons ago, but it wasn't very long. Maybe he's an option. They have struggled to find that guy out high. Now they're starting to go to 5 forwards at times late in the season. The Leafs did that all season. Other teams are doing that, so maybe that's the route they go. They don't have a defenseman that they feel is the guy to run the power play out high, so they go with 5 forwards, and you have a Brink or somebody else out there. That's possible as well. So we'll see players from the outside to come in. I mean, you look at the free agent list. I mean, to be honest with you, they can go out and offer sheet Matthew Nyes. He'd be a great net front guy for their power play, but he's going to cost you a lot of picks, probably first, second, and third. I was talking to Bush about Nyes in November. I said, and then he went and he was so good. I was almost like, don't be this good. Don't be this good so fast, but he was so good. And even in the playoffs, he looked good. So I think he's going to cost the maximum for an offer sheet. I also think the Leafs would be crazy to let him go. And on that note, the Flyers have to get Forster and Cates and York signed because especially Forster, after he looked good in the Worlds as well, he's no secret anymore. So they want to get him signed before somebody offer sheets him. Flyers have lots of cap space and can probably answer to it, but you don't want to have to answer to it and then clog your cap up again. So it'd be interesting to see where this all goes. But from the outside, I mean, Brock, no, I mean, I'm trying to think of somebody who would really help the power play. I really think they have enough talent to have a decent power play. They just have to figure it out. And I'm watching these playoffs power plays, and some teams that were good in the regular season struggling in the playoffs, vice versa. But the real good power plays, the one thing you see them do really, really well is recover the puck. I mean, if they lose the puck, they get 2-on-1 to recover that puck so fast. I didn't see that. Haven't seen that with the Flyers in forever. You can't. It's not just about skill. It's not just about making the pretty play. It's about the puck's going to bounce away from you from time to time. You got to go back and get it. Just because you have one more player on the ice than the other team doesn't mean the puck's just going to come to you. You have to go get it and show more hunger than even the penalty killers have to get to those loose pucks, get them back and set up. And oftentimes when you recover a puck on a power play, the defense, the penalty killers are a little bit out of position at that point, and that's where you can set some 3-on-2s and 2-on-1s in isolated circumstances and make some things happen. So whoever runs the power play, whoever's on the power play next year, I hope we see him recovering the puck better because it's an underrated element of any power play.
You know, when you refer to that, I kind of go into something that me and James have talked about. We do the Flyers post-game show for Hardcore Sports Network and Stream Punk Entertainment. And one of the things that I pointed out, especially throughout this past season, was that the Flyers power play, when you're the defenseman or when you're guarding that blue line, you have to pinch. You have to pinch to be able to make sure that there's no clearing the zone through the boards. You're blocking the puck in that way, that you're keeping the puck in the zone so that way the defenseman or the shorthanded team for the opposing team gets tired out quicker, because as soon as they clear the zone, they can line change, which then kind of puts your power play at a disadvantage because you're not draining or, making the other team exhausted by just chasing the puck in that zone.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And Joe, it has to be a 5-person puck pursuit mission.
Yeah.
And if you're a defenseman and you go in and they get it by you and you get a short-handed breakaway or short-handed odd man rush against you, well, it's going to happen from time to time. But you have to basically be aggressive toward those pucks, not passive. I just haven't seen much of that, enough of it over the last 4 years on the power play. Whereas at 5-on-5, Tortorella really instilled a pretty darn good hunt the puck down mentality with this team. But it's like when they get on the power play, that kind of changes. So they'll hopefully be able to work through that. I think Talk was the ultimate hound on a puck as a player. So I'm sure he's going to try to instill that on the power play as well. They have some guys like Tyson Forster's outstanding. Noah Cates, if he gets on the power play, also really outstanding at hunting pucks down, getting pucks back. Couturier is good at it. They have really good active sticks. They can do that. They have it in them. Konechny just with his all-out energy style of play can do that. Brink, same thing. So they have players that are absolutely capable of that hunting the puck down mentality, getting it back in the power play. They just have to execute it. Hopefully we'll see that next year. But to answer James's question, I don't necessarily think they have to go out and get a power play sniper. I think they have guys who can be snipers. Tyson Forster has a great shot. If he's not net front, put him in the bump. They have guys like Michkov who are tremendous distributors of the puck. They have hybrids of that in Konechny who can do both. They have players that, again, I'm not saying they have to be Tampa Bay, they're Toronto, the number one power play, but they certainly have enough talent to have a decent power play, and hopefully we'll see that next year.
The upcoming draft in June, we talk about what this team's going to look like, and you named some of the young talent that's there, Michkov, Forster, Noah Cates, stuff like that. But we have 7 picks in the first 2 rounds of the upcoming draft.
there's a lot of maneuverability, whether they use some of those picks to pick up guys like you're talking about through offer sheets, or they actually use all 7 picks. So I have 2 questions. Number one, do you think Danny Briere is going to use all 7 picks and pick 7 guys, or do you think that this is a matter of trying to improve the team with quality talent versus quantity of talent?
That's a good question, Joe. I mean, he has 3 options with all those picks, with all those assets. 1, make the picks. 2 is to trade up using picks to move up. 3 is to trade picks. Well, there's actually 4 options. 3 is to trade picks for a current player. And then 4 would be to trade picks to get a pick next year, which I think you're going to see at least, well, they're going to make some of the picks, obviously. I think you may see them trade out to get a pick next year because next year's draft is supposed to be strong. The thing about these drafts, though, 2 years ago, this draft was expected to be one of the best drafts ever. And then as the season ended last year, people were calling it a weak draft. So who knows what the draft is going to be in 2 years? We just don't really know. I happen to think this is still a very good draft this year. People just over-evaluate these prospects over like 5-game stretches and things like that. What this draft does have are centers. And the Flyers are desperately in need of center depth in their organization. So I saw the last mock I saw had all the centers pretty much being picked before the Flyers picked, which meant they went with Martone, the winger, and he might be the best player of the group in terms of raw talent. But again, the Flyers' strength is on the wings. So I think if their guys are all picked, they would go with him. But I do think that they want a center, and there are 4 or 5 good ones up there at the top. So that might be where you see a trade up if they see a guy that they really like. They have 3 first-round picks. They could wait, and there's some other centers that are kind of the level below that are a little higher risk, but still pretty high ceiling guys that they could pick a center with that second first-round pick. But we'll see. Going to be interesting to watch. But he has 4 options with those, Joe, and I think we'll probably see a combination of all that. They're obviously going to make some picks. I think there'll be some trades to maybe get to next year and have multiple picks again next year, not just their own picks. And maybe a trade happens where they trade a pick and something else from this year's team for a player. That could also happen. And then obviously the trade up scenario, which I think is a distinct possibility too. I mean, a lot of people are saying Misa has kind of cleared everybody else in terms of the centers, that he's the clear number 2 now behind Schaefer at the top of the draft. I mean, that's what they say. I just keep going back to the draft, which it was Nolan Patrick's draft. And then he got injured his draft year, and it became the Hischier Patrick draft or Patrick Hischier draft. It was one of the 2. They were 1-2. Nobody else in terms of the public perception. Now there were teams, including the Flyers, who liked some other players, but the public perception was it was one or the other. Whoever the Devils picked, the Flyers would get the other guy and they'd be fine. And the Devils picked Hischier. Flyers got Nolan Patrick. They weren't fine. Injuries and whatever. He did not pan out, and that's another reason why the Flyers are in the position they're in right now. And a number 2 pick doesn't turn into at least a productive player on your roster, it's going to hurt you, and it hurt the Flyers. It hurt you even more when the next 3 picks were, really, really good players, Makar, Heiskanen, and Elias Pettersson. So, and then beyond that, you had Suzuki and some other guys. So, there were some really good players available there, but my recollection of that draft was that there's 1 and 1A. So as we go into this draft, Schaefer's suddenly number 1, even though he didn't even play a full season last year. And Misa's all of a sudden, and I love him. I love Misa, but all of a sudden he's cleared off of what I'm not sure. What particular performance did he have that lifted him above the rest of the centers? I mean, I'm not so sure he's any better than Denoye. I don't know if he's better than Higgins. I don't know if he's better than Frondell. I don't even know if he's better than some of these other guys. McQueen is an interesting prospect. He's big. He's got injury issues. So, I don't know. There's so many centers there. I would be surprised if the Flyers don't get a center with that 6th pick. But if they see it where it's going to fall, where they're not going to get one, that's where maybe a trade up happens. Now, how much do you give up to go from 6 to 4 or 6 to 3? Not much. I mean, when I say not much, I would only give up maybe one of their seconds to move up 2 or 3 spots. If they have to give up one of their first, maybe the second first, which might end up being the 32nd pick in the draft. I mean, I might be willing to do that if they really like one of those centers, but they do need to add a center that at least has the potential to be a number 1 center on an NHL team. And there's probably 3 or 4 of those, at least the way we're looking at it now. There could be some sleeper out there. I still think Chetlichenko, who the Flyers got in the middle of the first, middle part of the first round, not in the top 7 or 8 picks. I think he might turn out to be a really, really good player. So you can get players beyond that, but obviously they're not as sure a thing as those top picks. So we'll see. But I think to answer your question, Joe, to make this long answer even longer, it's just going to be a combination of how things are playing out, how firmly they believe in a particular player, and how much they want to add to some of their stockpile for next year. Since obviously I don't think they're going to pick all 7. That's just too many players that would end up with contracts coming up at the same time and all that. So there's a financial aspect of all those picks as well. I think they'll be used as assets in trades in some way or another.
Yeah, and to kind of even piggyback off of what you're saying about the draft and, certain potentials and prospects, at least in my opinion, Connor Bedard, who was picked number 1 by the Blackhawks a couple years ago, Mitchkov was in that same draft, and we kind of stockpiled him away. And I believe that Mitchkov had came out and kind of like put the NHL on notice that he's here and he's a special player. And that just goes to prove to you that, you could pick later and still get a star talent. Speaking of,
you can, Joe, but the thing with that is you have to take a chance.
Yeah.
The reason he fell to 7 is because nobody thought he was going to be here for 3 years.
Right.
So the Flyers took a chance and swung for the home run, and they probably have hit the home run. Whether it's a grand slam, we still have to see, because Matvey has work to do. He's got to get himself in better shape so that the second part of his shifts he's not wearing down, that he has trouble in back-to-back games. All that stuff as a young player has got to go out the window. He can't be having trouble in second half of back-to-backs or late in shifts or things like that. So he's got things to work on. He's not by anything close to a finished product, but certainly there's a lot of potential there. And I love the kid's attitude. He's all about winning. He's all about hockey. He's great that way. So yeah, they got him at 7. Now, to bring it to this year's draft, there are some guys, not because they're Russian, but there are a couple of those too. But there's some guys who at 6 would be big swings. McQueen comes to mind right away as a guy who is a 6'5" center, but he's had back issues. So there's a red flag. But there's those who feel he's as talented as some of the guys who are going to go 2, 3, 4 in a big body. So if those injury issues go away, if it's taken care of, he could be the home run of this draft. Right. So, and when you have 7 picks in 2 rounds, you can take some swings like that. Some people might say not with the 6. You take the swing for the home run with the next pick. But by the time they pick again, some of the guys who are considered swing for the fences guys are gone. So, right. It's going to be a fascinating draft. It really is.
So speaking of stashing away talent, there's 2 goalies in that KHL. At least one that jumps out to me, and I'm going to butcher his name, so excuse me. But Yegor Zibanejad is.
I think you did well with it.
Huh? So Yegor Zibanejad is a 19-year-old goalie in the KHL who was picked in the 3rd round of the NHL draft a couple of years ago by the Flyers. I know you brought up about Ersson earlier, and I kind of tend to agree with you in some way. I call him a NHL backup goalie, but he's not a starter. I don't know if Zibanejad is a starter or not, but what I would ask you is, because of his youth, much like Mitchkov, would you bring him over and put him between the pipes to get him experience?
He might not have any choice. If you're talking about a Russian goalie, he's probably under contract. So I don't know his situation. It's actually the Russian goalie whose name begins with Z, and I don't want to butcher his name either because I have heard it said 5 different ways, who's ahead of the one you mentioned. And has been spectacular at times. Last year's first in the KHL. So, and they also have Bjornsson. They have 2 prospects ahead of the guy you mentioned that aren't even close to ready. So that's to answer your question. Is for next year's goaltending situation, it's the 3 we saw. If Kolosov's still part of the equation, I don't know where he's at because obviously he wouldn't go to the minors and all this and that. So I don't know where he's at. But as of right now, if he is part of the mix, it's those 3. So I think you're looking at probably an addition, maybe somewhere along the line of a more ready NHL ready goalie than any of their prospects. Goalies take a lot longer. A 25-year-old goalie is like a 21 or 22-year-old forward. A defenseman's probably like 23. They're probably in between the 2, but the different position players mature differently and unless you're Cale Makar, you're not ready as a defenseman when you're 18 or 19. And unless you're just a ridiculous goalie like Marty Brodeur was good in his very early 20s and Patrick Waugh, some of these guys. But outside of those generational guys, I hate using that term, but outside of those guys, it takes these goalies a little bit longer. So Sam Harrison, I don't want you to put words in my mouth. I did not say he's a backup goalie. I said he may be a tandem goalie.
That was me. That's what I believe.
Yes, where you play 1 to 1A, where you both play 40, 40, or maybe it's 45, 35 split kind of thing. But I'm not saying that's where he's at either. I'm just saying we don't have the answers. We know he's for sure. We do not have an answer on him being a number 1 that can carry the mail and be your 60-game guy. And there aren't that many of those left anyhow. I mean, Connor Hellebuck, there's just not that many of them. So, I mean, most teams now have the tandem anyhow. So I just think Sam's part of that. His play internationally shows you that he's got it in him to play really well in clutch situations, because whenever you're playing for your country, it's clutch. There's a lot of pressure on you. And he's had a year of really firm, solid, great international play. So I think he's definitely a big part of it. But after that, I don't know. I don't even want to write off Fedotov, because Fedotov's numbers, I know his style is crazy and he doesn't look good a lot of times, but his KHL career was stellar. So if you're going to throw some of these young Russians at me, their numbers aren't going to be as good as Fedotov's. So you just don't have any guarantee that any European goalie is going to come over here and be the answer, nor do you have a guarantee that any young North American goalie is. You just don't know with these goaltenders. So I think the safer bet would be to go out and get somebody. There is a restricted free agent, Hofer in St. Louis, maybe an offer sheet there. I mean, there wouldn't be like a major offer sheet. It wouldn't be first, second, third pick. It might be a second round pick, something that St. Louis did to Edmonton to get Holloway and the defenseman, what's his name, Broberg. So, I mean, you're looking at a situation where they might have to go outside to get a goalie to help now. I don't know if that's part of their plan. Again, I don't get any information, but that's, I would say, a possibility, because they do, when they start that season next October, they have to have some level of confidence they're going to get better goaltending than they've gotten the last year and a half.
Okay, JJ, to wrap things up, and we really appreciate all your time. The final question that we have for you is this. Me and James are big Flyers fans. There is a ravenous Flyers fan base, and you're speaking to all of them right now. And what is your expectations or what do you think our expectations should be for the upcoming Flyers season?
Joe, you got to ask me this after free agency. There's so much up in the air. They're going to make probably some trades too. The draft. I mean, right now, I can tell you, I thought this team was going to make the playoffs the last 2 seasons, and they almost did 2 seasons ago, should have. And again, last year, they got to get some saves. But so if they can shore up the goaltending, and that would probably have to come through a trade or some kind of free agency deal with maybe a restricted free agent. But if they can shore up the goaltending and get that number, that save percentage closer to 900 as opposed to 978 or whatever, I don't see any reason why this team can't make the playoffs. There is enough talent here. This lack of talent narrative out there. You look around at some of the teams in the playoffs and look at their 5th and 6th defensemen and their 4th lines, and it's like no team has 12 all-star forwards and 6 all-star defensemen. So, it's they're not that far behind. They could have made the playoffs, should have 2 years ago, and could have last year if they'd gotten some decent goaltending. So I know it seems 5 straight years out of the playoffs, seems like they're a long way away from the playoffs. I don't think they are. I think Talk will obviously have a positive impact. I think he'll have a positive impact on some of the veterans who maybe didn't see eye to eye with Torts. I think he'll also work well with youngsters. They will add, I think, this year as opposed to subtracting as they have the last couple of years. Maybe even add at the deadline as opposed to subtracting. So they've come to the point where I think the veteran players, the Konechny's, Sanheims for sure, and even the Tippett's and Cates, who are now 26 and York's coming up at 25. I think these guys kind of deserve to have addition as opposed to subtraction. That's one of the reasons why I think Danny's going out and saying that's the phase they're in now. And so with all that taken into consideration, I think they have a legitimate shot to make the playoffs. Now, I won't know for sure what the makeup of the team is for another month or 2 or 3. So, it's tough for me to say. But as Flyers fans, you should expect this team to be competitive next year. I mean, this is year 3 of the Jones-Briere rebuild, but to be honest with you, the rebuild really started before that, haphazardly, but it did start before that when the Tippett trade, the Giroux trade for Tippett, and some of the other picks that are coming here now, like Bump and some of those guys, they were picked before Danny and Jonesy. So the rebuild actually is longer than 2 years in the making. So it's time, in my mind, for them to begin to make progress. And progress right now, since they were so close to a playoff spot 2 years ago, progress to me is a playoff spot, or at least right in the running down to the very end again. But I do think, with good goaltending, not all-star goaltending, but just good, solid goaltending, they would have been there the last 2 years. So I think they need that to be shored up. And so until I see what they do with that, till I see what other moves are made, I can't really make a prediction, Joe. But in general terms, given the timeline, given the amount of talent that's on the team that's being added and probably will be added, I think that a playoff spot is not an expectation, but certainly is the goal and a realistic goal for this team.
Well, speaking of time, that is our time for this interview. We want to thank JJ for his time and all of his answers and making the time to come on and talk some Flyers. It's been really great talking with you, JJ.
Great talking with you
JJ.
too. Be a great off season. Enjoy it.
Yep.
Appreciate you, JJ.
And so that will wrap us up for this week. Join us next week on Patterson Ave Sports Show. And until then, have a good weekend, Philadelphia. Let's go Flyers.